My Inner Knowing, empowering you to find your compass for the journey. We are dedicated to supporting you to rediscover and trust your natural ability to navigate life each day by sharing insight and experience through the lens of two professional communicators and their guests. We intend to prompt internal inquiry that supports all those willing to explore a unique path. Well, hello. Beats to it again.
He did. He likes to do that. So, how are you, Aaron?
Doing well.
Good. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, you and I connected actually a few months ago and had a nice meeting. When you think about, for you, this journey that you've been on, when you think about your inner knowing, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, for me, it's the moments where I felt clear and open, and it's almost like my mind is quiet, and I just have a sense of I'm on the right path, and everything's going to be okay. Any anxiety that's tightness in my chest is just dissipated, and I just have this connection of okay, everything's gonna be okay, and I'm on the right path.
When you think back to a time in your life where it wasn't that clear for you, how far back would you go?
I could go back probably when I was 37, going through a separation that resulted in a divorce. Because I had my oldest son was about 2 or 3 at the time, and I thought I was on a certain path with our family, and it all got changed and shifted to a different direction that I wasn't anticipating.
Yeah. When you think about that time and before that time, when you were trying to, I don't know, be clear or make a decision about something, what do you recall that your process was versus today?
Yeah, so a lot of it was outside forces. I was, trying to focus on my career and get the better job, increase my salary, provide for my family, and just, improve myself. But it was not to the fullest extent. It was, kind of doing courses that were career related versus actually individual personal growth work on what was really going on inside of me. I did go to therapy, and I had a variety of different therapists, and because I experienced depression. I think I actually probably was experiencing it in high school, but it wasn't diagnosed until my late 20s or 30s. And so, I had therapy to go to. I was prescribed various medications to help with it. But I felt this numbness, and I felt I'm doing everything that I thought I was supposed to be doing here to make things work, and there's still something missing along the way. Yeah.
One of the things that Walker and I will talk about often is feeling it in our body. Are there certain places that you feel, I don't know, clear in when you are clear, and when you are not clear, what does that feel like for you in your body?
Yeah, so I'll start with when I'm not clear. There's a lot of tightness in my chest, and then a kind of a nervous anxiety kind of feeling in my stomach.
Yeah.
And then my mind is a lot of thoughts are just negative, and there's a lot of them, and a lot of putting myself down.
Okay.
When I am clear, that my chest is open, and it's not tight anymore, and I'm able to be more, I guess, selective of what thoughts I want to believe and actually agree with that are going on in my head. And then that the anxiety, like in my stomach, it still may be there a bit, but I'm actually more comfortable with it, and recognizing that it's okay. Like I'm not going to because I think I believed for many years that I was getting to this point where everything would be fine. Like I just thought, if I just keep working on myself, this anxiety is going to go away. I'm not going to worry about things because I'm a chronic worrier for many years. And I thought that that was kind of the goal, was that get to a point where it's just, it'll be gone. And it wasn't until my kind of mid to late 30s that I was going through the divorce that over time I started to realize that that's not the goal. The goal is to be okay with whatever feelings are going on, whatever's coming up, and to be able to navigate through it and not let it take over me and take me down a path that's not going to be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I talk about, Aaron, with clients a lot is, because sometimes it's hard to see the improvement and because they still feel anxious. And it is that story, right, that we tell ourselves that I'm just not going to feel anxious anymore, Yeah. And I think being human is experiencing all the things. And for me, the growth piece is less frequently, less intense, and doesn't last as long. Like that is helpful if we can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not getting okay with it. I guess getting rid of that belief that that if I'm going to feel this way, it's going to be forever. And it's, because that's, I think, what a lot of fear for me was. If I'm even just sadness, if it's going to feel sad, it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
And knowing that it actually is absolutely normal to feel that sadness, and it will dissipate and it'll turn into another feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think at the time of the divorce, that's the time when you started realizing or recognizing how to check in and observe, hey, this is what's going on, and then implement the tools that you were talking about? Leading up to that divorce, I was just kind of on the surface of working on myself. I was reading lots of books and doing lots of journaling, but not fully doing the work. I would just do it to a certain point. And then when I was feeling good, I was like, okay, everything's fine. I don't need to do it as much more. So that, leading up to the divorce, it then really, I had this, I remember we owned a townhouse at the time, and I was in the basement of this townhouse, a dark room. It smelled like cat pee because the cat was using it as a litter box more than its litter box. Like, it just was a very kind of dark room, the very no windows. And I was on the internet trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here? I'm going through this it was a separation at the time, but I was just feeling absolutely low. And it made me realize that I was asking myself the wrong question. For many years. I was asking myself, like, what's wrong with me? In that dark basement, one evening, while I'm searching online to try to figure out how to solve this, I realized that I needed to start asking myself, what is this for? And can I find a gift in this? Is as hard as it is, and as much as I'm struggling through this? And that's where, over time, I found the right therapist. I realized that I was seeing a variety of therapists over the years, but I actually realized that I can choose the therapist. I don't just have to take the first one that comes along. I can find one that understands what I'm going through and where I want to get to. And so that situation made me realize, okay, I need help.
Yeah.
And that finding that therapist actually was the starting point of helping me heal through this.
When you think about that process, because Aaron, I think it's such a significant point, right? That the help that we're going towards is helpful, right? Not, like someone can recommend a book to us, like they can recommend a therapist to us, and it doesn't mean that it is helpful to us, right? Even if it was helpful to them. Yeah. As best you recall, what was it about that therapist that, I don't know, helped you know that this process was going to be more helpful than what you had experienced before?
This therapist actually did something that a previous therapist had done with me that I didn't connect with. It's probably 7 years before I saw this therapist. When I was going through divorce, I had a therapist that had me just sit in the chair across from her And she had me describe what the feeling of my feet were, and feeling of my leg, and trying to get me to connect with the feelings in my body. And at that moment of my life, I just wanted some tangible techniques or solutions to help me with things. And at that point, I didn't understand what she was trying to get me to do. And this therapist, was at the right point where she was getting me to feel what was going on inside of me. And she highlighted something about depression that no other therapist had highlighted as well. Because she said to me, you know what, Aaron, what's depression? And I described to her what I was experiencing is this, dark kind of cloud that's over my head that just has me, feeling like everything's wrong, everything's dismal. I'm not going to be able to get anywhere. And she said, yeah, that's, if that's your experience, that's definitely valid. And here's another thing to consider is that depression can be looked at that it's anger turned inward. And that just the light bulbs went off for me, because I had no relationship with anger for leading up to that point. I didn't know how to get angry. The pastor that my first marriage actually was trying to get my ex-wife and I to argue and fight in marriage therapy leading up to getting married.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to navigate that.
Yeah.
Because I'm I'm kind of a recovering people pleaser. And so I don't like to get conflict. And so this therapist just opened my eyes that, okay, I don't want to deal with anger, but it looks like this is somewhere I need to go and start to look at, because it's definitely, it's impacting me continually going back into these depressed states.
Yeah.
Sure. No, it's fascinating, Aaron, and it probably speaks beyond us, but my experience is similar. Just, long-term relationship since the time I was 14, basically, until 47. It just took me an extra decade, to wake up. But I had to get cancer and then have that dark night in the closet at my house before things started to change. Just what you're saying really speaks to me in that process, because when I went to see somebody, went to get some help like you, and she asked me, what do you feel in your body? And I had no clue there was anything below the brain, honestly.
Yeah.
It was just like, I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So I've walked some of the same footsteps as you, and it's hard. It's a hard road. In that moment down in the basement when you finally realized you were asking the wrong question, was there something that told you, if you can remember what came along with the message, is, what caused the change? Wrong question. And then you got the right question.
Yeah, just, it came over me. At that time in my life, I did go to a Wayne Dyer conference, like the Can Do It conference. And so perhaps, like, I went to see Wayne and had learned about Marianne Williamson. And so she opened my eyes to another way of viewing things as well. And so I don't know if, getting to see them and hear them speak at that moment of my life was also something that helped me start to open my perspective. But
Sure.
I journaled a lot over the years and still do. And I found that when I journaled all these thoughts that were going through my head, that also helped open things up to get the negative stuff out and look at what other potential's there.
Sure. I think when a lot of people sit down to journal, this is my experience anyway, sometimes I'm just like, just freeze. There's just so much. Do you have any tips or advice for people who are trying to get past that so they can meaningfully do that work?
Yeah. I just started just trying to write whatever was coming up, whatever thoughts were coming up, just to get them on paper. And sometimes it would just be a scribble. Like, if I didn't have anything to actually write, I would just keep the pen moving until something came up. And then the other thing that I've, the clients that I've worked with, if writing isn't work, maybe it's painting for you. Maybe it's just recording on your phone. Like, if you don't feel comfortable writing, you could just, whatever's coming up, you could record it and just delete it afterwards if you don't want anybody else to hear it. But there's other ways to journal that don't necessarily have to involve writing, although the studies show that writing it out actually is using more aspects of your brain, so it does help. But there's
right.
there's definitely other ways to be able to do it. Moving your body, it's amazing. Just dancing to a song that you like may actually bring up some emotions and
Yes.
get you to maybe then you can write about something or get some intuitive ideas come to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about ways of getting present in the body. That's a great one. I love that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It's so interesting what not modalities. I'm trying to think of the word that I'm looking for, but just we exploring different things to figure out what speaks to our body. I think emotion for most of us is pretty messy. I just saw Walker hasn't seen it yet, but the Inside Out 2. Have you seen that yet?
Not yet. I want to take my son to that. Yeah.
Oh, Aaron, so good. Yeah. I mean, it's still really simple, right? Like there's 5 emotions in the first one, there's 10 in the second one, but it still does such a great job exploring the complexity of us. I know Walker and I were in Oregon over the weekend, and we were in these little shops in Florence and just walking around, and I saw this bell that Walker had offered to buy me like 6 years ago, but I wouldn't let him spend the money on it. And then afterwards I regretted it. And then I kept trying to find it. And then the guy, interestingly enough, got cancer, was not able to be helpful to me. But when I saw the bell, we walked in the shop and it was the same guy from like 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And then I was like, okay, I'm getting one today. And then I walked into the back of the store and there was this bell, and like it brought up emotion in me, but it wasn't even by the same artist. It was a similar type artistic expression, but it wasn't the same. But there was something about it that brought emotion up. And Walker's like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. But my body's responding to something, right? And just,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, allowing it, right? As opposed to, getting too much into our heads so that we take ourselves right out of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's practice to do that.
Yeah, and that was my next question for you is, what is your practice? And it's likely evolved over the years, right? But can you explore with us a little bit about what your practice is?
Yeah. It's still, I'm still learning is one thing I've recognized. I'm still learning because I go through moments still where I'm feeling good. I tend to not do the same things that I do when I'm feeling down. And so journaling, I find kind of ebbs and flows when I'm not, I tend to use it more when I'm not feeling well. And I'm trying to do it more regardless of how I'm feeling, just to be able to, have an opportunity to show myself that, hey, this is, I'm at a good place right now. I'm feeling good and I'm taking care of myself. But I do recognize from a mental health perspective when I'm exercising, like just simple basic things to the body, like exercise, sleeping, getting enough sleep, eating healthy, like just the basic things that I know we're always told about. To me, it works. Those are kind of the core things that if you're doing that, that's going to help you start feeling better. It may not be immediate, but if you keep it consistent. But I really trying to meditate more and just get quiet, but also recognizing that it's not the goal isn't necessarily get quiet. It's just about being comfortable with all these thoughts that are going on and observe them versus buying into them. And so I've been doing a lot of that more. Like a few years ago, I read Michael Singer's book.
Oh yeah, Untethered Soul.
Untethered Soul.
Yeah,
and it's come back to me again, and I've read his other books in the last few weeks, and just what his message is resonating a lot more with me now than it did before. And it just I love hearing from people that have life experience, that have, most of my career has been in the corporate world, and he's had that experience, so I can connect with that. He's doing these, he's teaching these spiritual ideas, but to me, it's like, okay, this man he's gone through life and is using it in life versus just trying to sit on a mountaintop and meditate all the time. He's actually living life, which is, I like to hear from people that are living their life and practicing these types of modalities and that.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. Wouldn't it be nice in some respects to have that opportunity and still coming back and living here? So, yeah, I read somewhere years ago about meditation because both Walker and I are meditation teachers, but the goal wasn't to be able to meditate in quiet. It was be able to meditate in the middle of Union Station in New York. And so for me, I was like, okay, well, let's go.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And learning how to stay in my body, regardless of all the distractions. So yeah, lifelong process. So is the surrender experiment one that you read recently?
It is. Yes.
Yeah. Anything come to mind about that book that was helpful?
Say yes more. Right?
Say yes more. Tell us more about that. Tell us more.
Yeah. I could relate to some of the things because he was getting frustrated. A lot of people were invading the place he was living because he just wanted to be there and meditate and do his practice. But these people were still showing up and just wanting to be part of what he was involved with. I think there was a moment where one of the women just decided to want to live in his property, and he came back from, I think, teaching and immediately was like, no, and then took a moment and just, realized that, okay, this is happening. Nothing bad is happening. It's just somebody wants to live on the property and practice, what I'm teaching. So, and he went out and helped them move in, or even it might have been when they were building a place for the person. Yeah. So just saying yes more to things that seem like an obstacle, but you don't know if they're going to be an obstacle until you experience it. And what I got out of it a lot was the connection with. It seemed like he was really wanting to connect to something greater, but there's also the human connection was important. And I keep coming back to that. How can I take steps to connect more with others?
Yeah.
And seeing the importance of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the goal for me is all of it. Can I be connected to what's in front of me? The plant, the animal, the person, spirit, what is in front of me, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've listened to a lot of his podcasts too. The part of the healing process, is just letting go. And he keeps it so simple, and it's just like, you don't have to call up everybody you've ever wronged and apologize for what you did in fourth grade to the, little girl across the lunch table or whatever it is. It's just like, you don't have to do that and think about everything. It's just because it will bring itself to you. And when it does, is recognizing that that's what that is. And you relax and release. Tell yourself that. And so I'm practicing that a lot, instead of getting lost in the whole memory of whatever it was, that comes up. But it's when you start watching and paying attention, the universe hands those things to you. It's like, hey, remember this? And how you deal with that, the relax and release, I think is just it's a tremendous tool that I found from Michael Singer. So,
the whole idea that life is the workshop. You don't need to go necessarily, do a weekend workshop and everything's solved. Like, life is the weekend workshop's there to help you go back into your everyday life, and it's your learning ground, right? It's where you're gonna
right.
And it's hard. I still will turn around and say, I've done, I'm tired of learning. I just want, peace. And I think, the recognition that it's a journey. And it's going to continue. And so the obstacles and challenges that come up are opportunities to grow, even with outcomes that you didn't want, divorce, for example, or whatever else. It just is getting to that mind place where you can take the step back to look at what's the overall lesson here, what's advancing my soul. It's a really cool place to be when I can get myself there. And then sometimes I just throw down my toys and stomp off. So and then come back around after I've realize that that's where I went.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a big part of the process is knowing that we're going to not always do it perfectly, and we can always come back and learn from it.
Yeah. Perfectly is an interesting word.
Yeah.
I'm sure in your work, you come up with the perfection issue a lot. It seems to be something a lot of people face.
It is, right? And
What's your experience with that?
I have spent many years trying to get everything to be perfect and put all this pressure on myself, and it took a long time to realize that I can be okay with things not going as I planned, and have this, because I go into situations and have this expectation of how I want it to go, and then it goes completely different. And this counseling training program that I did really had me step into that, because we were doing various types of exercises where things aren't going to go the way you think they're going to go for yourself as an individual and for others in the room. And it's that taught me a lot of, okay, I've been in the corporate world all these years, and have this idea of how things are supposed to go, and just being more open that, okay, because I was, during COVID, I was laid off twice.
Mm.
And I think if it had happened earlier in my life, I don't know if I would have been able to handle it in the same way, because I had life experience and more inner knowing around, okay, it doesn't impact my identity. It's just an event that happened. How can I move through this?
Yeah. Was the identity piece an awareness that you, I don't know, read about or came upon, or how did you get to a place where you recognize that attaching your identity to it was not going to be helpful?
Yeah, because I was believing, I would believe what other people said about me for so many years, and so I had this identity that I was quiet, shy, not at a typical male. I don't talk a lot, unless I feel like I'm in an engaged conversation. So I'll be quieter, and I won't be the alpha in the room. And so I was around a lot of men that were like that, and so I thought something was wrong with me, and I had this attachment to that I was supposed to be a certain way as a man. And it took me meeting other men that had gone through similar experiences to recognize that I don't have to be the alpha. I don't have to be the loud one and the boisterous one, and all these things that I had thought, based on the who was around me and teaching me when I was younger, right? So, and that's where that anger piece, I started to learn that anger is okay, because I spent so many years thinking that it was wrong to be angry, because I learned that my birth dad was very angry, and so through my mom, I learned that you don't be angry with people at all, right? Like, this was kind of, whether it was consciously taught to me or even subconsciously taught to me as I got older. And so when I learned how to express that anger and not make it this bad thing, that I'm going to be bad as a guy if I'm angry, and that I don't have to, being angry isn't meant to hurt somebody. It isn't meant to, physically do harm. It's just, it's an emotion, and you can deal with it and not have to be physical or verbally abusive to somebody. It's more, okay, just recognizing, okay, I'm angry right now, and get it out in a healthy way. And once I started to realize that, then I'm like, okay, I can be more of who I actually aspire to be, and not have it be attached to this persona of what I think others, or what I'm believing others think I should be.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
What do you aspire to be?
Just open and loving and caring, fully connected to something greater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel like your role as parent has changed with all this more focused work that you've been doing?
Yeah, I feel like parenting is definitely another learning platform for me.
Yeah.
But it's definitely enabled me to be the parent that I want to be. But at the same time, my kids are teaching me so much patience. And I have one that's a teenager and one that's 7. So I've got learning in both ways from each of them.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, being a parent is definitely helped me be, reminding me to go back to, the practices that I know keep me grounded, keep me in that loving and compassionate state. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like my children are my biggest teachers for sure.
Yeah.
They mirror it right back to me, whatever it is.
Right?
That would be helpful for me to learn. Yeah. About myself or them. Yeah. Yeah. I've worked deliberately, probably the last 15 years of giving them permission, very directly to give me feedback. So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Important.
It's so interesting, the patience piece, I think, maybe that's what our children are here for.
Yeah.
One of the many
their
things.
way.
Yeah.
Patience is a hard one. Yeah.
Healthy anger is another.
Yeah.
Healthy anger is another. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you think, it's interesting, Walker, that you say that, the healthy anger. What do you think for you, Aaron, anger looks like for you now? How do you know you're angry, and how do you express it in a way that leaves you, as best we can, feeling like we've had a voice, we also have integrity and the least amount of regret?
Yeah. For me, it's, it can be like a frustration, or it can be more, more involved in that. But it's that I know that I'm feeling it because there's a tightness in my chest, and maybe a frustration, or an elevated kind of feeling that happens. And for me, I know it comes up when I feel like somebody's not being truthful or respectful. And so what I've recognized, and I'm definitely not saying I'm perfect at this at all,
Sure.
but when I can is to be aware of it and not react outwardly right away, and to be able to, and it could be something simple. If someone cutting me off in traffic, is, recognizing now, is it worth me getting upset with them when I have no idea what's going on in their life, and be having that event, and thinking about it, and going down that path of why would they do that? Why are they cutting me off? They're so rude. They're not thoughtful. For 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or even the full day of
Yes.
how can someone do that?
Yeah.
Is it really worth it to go down that path? And just remembering that, like, who do I want to be in this moment? And do I want the anger to take me somewhere, or do I want to just allow it to be there and then respond to it differently? Because it's just an emotion, right? And then this is more what I was really dealing with it, and releasing it, is there's sadness was under my anger, a lot of sadness. And so that what I learned a lot was that there's anger is just a surface emotion, and there's usually something that's on the other side of it if you can release it effectively.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you're yelling at somebody, like I said earlier, or being physical or something, but you're just allowing it to just go through your body and feel it. And it may feel uncomfortable. And that's what thing that I think that happens for myself and other people that I've helped, is that when you feel angry, you want to get rid of it as quickly as possible. Whereas getting comfortable with it and just allowing it to just dissipate could then open something else up, another feeling that you didn't realize was there.
Did you learn techniques for releasing anger?
Yeah. Some were, that I've done with clients is more where you have somebody to help you with. There's it's almost like doing a practice role play kind of conversation where the other person is across from you, witnessing you getting angry and getting all the anger off your chest. And they're properly trained to receive it and not take it personally, but just be there as a witness, so that you can say, you can get it all off your chest, and then you can actually then inform that witness that, yes, I'm feeling angry, but I really was feeling this, right? And to be able to go through this kind of process, to be able to express what you're really feeling, and then come on the other side of it and saying, I'm choosing to believe something else about this person and myself in this situation, and to be able to come at the end of it and have a kind of an affirmation, if you will, that you're connecting to what's the truth of what's going on. But there's other things that you can, having a pool noodle and just hitting against the couch can, as long as no one's around you and you're doing it in a safe place, that can get the anger out if you're not harming yourself or someone else.
Yeah.
Or yelling, and if you're, go into your car and just yell as loud as you want. Just get,
They're a great, pretty soundproof space, our cars are these days. Yeah.
Right. I've even seen companies that have little booths that you can go into, and they're soundproof, and you can just scream as loud as you want in there.
Nice.
Oh my gosh. Aaron, that is hysterical. I haven't seen those yet, but no, that's a fabulous idea. Yeah. And then there's things like just journaling it out if you can't, express it openly, or you don't feel comfortable in that. Just journaling out all the angry thoughts, and even if it's just scribbling. Like sometimes when I was angry, I was just scribbling. Yeah.
But it's aggressive scribbling because it's the anger is kind of getting released. But
sure.
Yeah. So I'm trained in hypnotherapy, and the particular type that I'm trained in has like an energy release part. And we used sections of a high pressure water hose, which is very effective.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that I, became aware of during that period of time when I was going through that training was, the intentionality of the anger release, not doing it in like the rage place, right? Where we're not even in our body. We're not in our self. We are somewhere else, and we're just, losing all touch with everything around us, as opposed to, I want this out of my body. I want it to go, whatever it is. Sometimes we may not even know what it is, right? Like sometimes we can identify, but sometimes we don't know what it is, but that I want it to go. So setting an intention for releasing.
Yeah. I know it's important. Yeah. To on the other side of that is to, what do you want to experience once the anger is released, right? Or what are you searching for?
Right.
And that's right. Connecting to that other experience or the other emotion that's on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Can be a good intention. And having that kind of completion of the exercise. So you're not just raging for no reason. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm resistant to the because Teresa's taught me to use the hose with a punching bag, and it's hard. It's really hard for me to do that one. It's better for me to go outside and yell, just, top of my lungs, just scream, let it out in appropriate locations so it won't frighten people.
Definitely.
It's usually best if you're by the ocean and the wind is blowing really hard in, you can scream out into the wind and no one's going to hear.
That's perfect. Yeah.
I've done that one, but the physical, I don't know what the resistance is, but it's there. Yeah. And just so it's good to hear different things people have learned.
Mm-hmm.
So for sure.
Yeah. There's a lot of, there's so many things. Yeah. I did breath work underwater, like with the snorkel. And, yelling underwater for me was helpful because not only did it reduce like the sensory input, there's not much sound that comes out, but you can still have that physical, feeling of the release.
There's breathing techniques with meditation that I've done. Conscious connected breathing, where you're breathing at a rapid rate, which can bring out the emotions, and that it's good to do it with some support, so someone's there to be with you. But I've done that kind of work before too. Yeah.
So is the conscious connected breathing, is that a particular type of breath work?
Yeah, it's more focused on the in breath, and then you're just letting the out breath. Like you're not focused on the out breath. It's more it's like almost like you're sipping in through a straw on the in breath, and then you just let the out breath happen. And you're doing that consistently over and over again, and then it just starts to get your body activated, and you can allow for various emotions to come up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate your comment about having support too. It can be helpful to not be alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Depending on what's coming up, it's definitely good to have someone there to be there with you through it.
Yeah. Yeah. What is your awareness, Aaron? When we talk about like what is underneath the anger, I mean, there's different exercises I've done with clients over the years in regards to identifying what's underneath that, what's underneath that, what's underneath that. And so often I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, I'll be abandoned. I mean, like those are really common ones if we go all the way down, right? Are there other ones that you've become aware of in the work that you've been doing?
I think that those are like, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, I don't matter. These types of a lot of the common ones that come up. It's definitely the lovable.
Yeah.
I'm not lovable is a big one that I think happens for a lot of people, and it may take a while for them to connect to that and not recognizing it. But I think that's a big one, because through my own journey and a lot of the men that I've helped over the years, like, self-love was a key aspect that was missing. Is that they're either trying to please other people or use outside forces to get unmet love, essentially, and they're not actually taking care of themselves.
So what's your process with that? Just, I know that's like a 2-hour conversation or 20-day conversation, but, how do you approach that with men?
The training I have is part of it is going back a bit to the past. Even though I'm a life coach, I believe that there is, and a lot of coaching programs talk about just being future state focused, right? And I think the past has so many lessons to teach us.
Agreed.
And it doesn't, going back and looking at the past doesn't mean to sit in the past. It means to just look at it and learn from it and all the different amazing lessons that are there that we may have not even seen along the way. And so a really powerful exercise I've done with clients is look at their genogram. So looking at their family tree, essentially, on the mom's side and the dad's side, and mapping out all the different people involved and the relationships between those people, the unspoken rules among the members of the family, any addictions or diseases that showed up, and to really map out what may be going on in the family, the family system that could ultimately be landing on the individual. And so that if they're not loving themselves, it may just be because of all the lessons that were being taught in various aspects to other people in the family about death, about relationships, about how to deal with stress, how to deal with conflict, to be able to let them see that there's other elements to it that's not just all on them. It's not their only responsibility. So that's one of the things that I've done with people, just to help them open up and look at a bigger picture of what may be landing on them from their family. And that's not meant to blame the family. It's more to just say, oh, let's get curious about this. And, you're an oldest child, so you were put in the responsibility of taking care of your siblings. So that may be why you're a little bit more serious, and you're not as, you're more reserved, and you're not as willing to take risks, and that can help people, just be a bit more okay of where they're at. And they can definitely work on changing elements of who they want to be, but just recognizing, okay, that may be why I'm the way I am, and how can I start to take care of myself more?
Yeah.
Big steps. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of work to do. We all do.
I was just going to say.
More to come.
Always more to come.
Yeah.
Are there any books or things that you are looking forward to exploring in the next year?
I find lately books just kind of show up. I listen to a lot of podcasts,
Yeah.
and I kind of go down the path of if one of the guests on a podcast is of interest to me, or if somebody recommends a book. My therapist, who I go back to, who I saw during my divorce, I'm back seeing her still and getting help with things, and she suggested I'd look at Michael Singer.
Yeah.
So what I find is I'm now at a place where I'm tending to explore more of the books around spirituality and connecting to something bigger, and not be focused on just myself, as but more on how can I contribute to something that's greater than me.
Yeah.
Just with all what's going on in the world, and that I find that is an opportunity to help in some capacity around healing more and more people, and I think if I can learn more about healing myself, I can then be able to help share that with others.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think about your kids, mentioning your kids and the patience piece. And two books came to mind that I think, for me, are very helpful. Dan Siegel has a book called Brainstorm, and it's about parenting a teenager.
Okay, good to know. Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And then there's one I just started like a week and a half ago that's called The Anxious Generation. And that's, like your kid's age, my kid's age, into their like mid 20s and younger. And that has been a fascinating one as well, too. And it really, even though it's, teaching us, as adults and parents about our children, it really is teaching us about us and, the roles that we took on really as youngsters ourselves, right? Carrying stories around. And I have really enjoyed those. Do you have any books coming up that you're looking forward to reading, Walker?
Well, there's a huge stack next to
I know.
Nice. More ambitious in my purchasing than I have been in getting it done. No, I'm going through Michael Singer's books.
Yeah.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, they're good. I think I read Untethered Soul, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. It's been a long time, but very helpful. Working on developing that observer is, it's a powerful piece of our growth journey for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing to get to a place where we can start to just look at the thoughts and not be attached to them. As I'm definitely, like I said, I'm not claiming to be an expert at it, but it's just seeing the benefits of just taking that step back in our head and not attach those thoughts. It's a simple practice that he talks about, but you can see how it can help.
Yeah. One of the ways that I worked on developing that was not intentionally connected to Michael Singer, but I was trying to understand how my brain worked in conversation with people. So I would notice that in conversation, people would talk about something and then my brain would go that direction. Like they would say something and my brain would go all and then they would get done speaking. And then I'd be like, I don't know what they said. But what I started doing was wherever I ended up when they stopped speaking, I would then start retracing how I got there. And so I learned to develop my observer by moving backwards in my train of thought. And so then I think what I did was teach my brain and body that I wanted to be more observant of my thoughts. And then it developed into real time. But that was my process. So
well, that's great. That's great to be able to do that. Yeah.
I didn't know that. First time I've heard you say that.
I know all those things we don't talk about,
it's fascinating.
Right?
Yeah.
All right.
My brain doesn't work that way at all. If I tried to retrace the steps, I'd probably be just swimming, fascinating.
Well, we all have to find our way, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And definitely this, part of our process doing all of these interviews is about that. Knowing, Aaron, that in your sharing today, you've taught somebody something, right? Like something that's touched their story, something that speaks to them, something that maybe is the right time for them to hear, like you were talking about earlier. I had this therapist who said that, and I was like, that's not helpful. But it's helpful now, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, our consciousness, it's not high enough up in our consciousness for us to really grab a hold of it and look at it and understand it better. And so I think it's great for people to share their stories, be vulnerable, so that we can all keep growing, learning from each other.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anything else that you would like to share? Any thoughts or awarenesses?
This quote by Carl Jung has stayed with me for many years. To simplify it, he basically says that those who look outside dream, and those who look inside awaken. And to me, that's my journey, and that's what I've been looking to help the clients that I've helped with is to allow them to go inside if they really want to achieve who they want to be and what they want to contribute to the world. There's a component of it where going and doing that inner journey is going to get them there.
Yeah. But I love Carl Jung. Lots of good things there.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you, the connection and the willingness to share some of your story with us.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you, Aaron, and for doing the work that you're doing, emphasizing our lives around helping people. It's lovely. So thank you. I appreciate your wisdom.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to explore life with you. We encourage curiosity, self-growth, and we strive to be more compassionate every day.